My name is Emilia Edwards. I will be testing the process of fermentation for a grade 9 science project for my teacher, Miss Bidwell, period 2 in science. This will be a two-part process. We will be doing the dry ingredients first, which would be 6 cups of flour and 1 tablespoon of salt. But before we get into that, I've got a little bit of olive oil straight from Italy, long before coronavirus was even a thing. So we're just gonna mix that around in here. Alright, now we're gonna do the 6 cups of flour. What you're gonna wanna do here is not absolutely pack it in, because then when we add the water, it's gonna be really dry and whatnot. So what we're gonna wanna do is just a nice, easy, grab their little sift. Right there, that's kind of what you want your cup to look like. And we're gonna do 6 of those. So that was 6. If it ends up being a little bit too moist, we can always just add in a little bit of extra to even it out. And now for the tablespoon of salt. Now that we've done that, we don't need these guys anymore. Now on to part 2, which includes the wet ingredients, the 3 cups of water, a teaspoon of sugar, and the fresh yeast, which we got from the Italian bakery. You smell it's very, very potent, but notice how it's like more moist. This is fresh yeast. The dry stuff you get at the package is not really the best stuff you can get. And if you go down to the Italian bakery that's close to the no frills I mentioned, this is like the best stuff you can find. So now on to the ingredients. One thing I forgot to mention, when you get this stuff from the bakery, you get it in like a big block that's like pretty big. So what we did was we cut it, and the amount of yeast you add is a 1/4 cup, not like a full. Like it doesn't come like this, you gotta cut it up. Stir on the sugar and water and whatnot in there. Now we wait. So now that that's done, waited 15 minutes, kind of blew by. Now what we're gonna do is mix the wet and dry together. So what I'm gonna do first is make a little hole there, big enough for the yeast to get in there. Pour this in gently. We're gonna have to get our hands dirty and mix that together. Before we do that, a little bit of olive oil on our hands so that it doesn't stick. If it's a little too sticky, just don't be shy, grab a handful of flour, dump it on in there. Now that it's starting to cooperate, we can grab a handful of flour dump them on the counter there. And pour this guy out. If we didn't put the olive oil on, it would have been a lot harder to get it on the pages. Once you've gotten all the dough out of the bowl, what you're gonna want to do next is begin kneading. Now, what we do next? We usually prep it in a bowl, but for scientific purposes, we are using a pot. And in this case, we're going to have to cover that in olive oil and then set the dough in. Now we've got a ruler clipped to the side so we can measure how high the dough grows. And we've got a weight scale set up over there so we can measure how much the weight it gains as it grows. So what we're going to do now to make sure the dough doesn't stick to the pot when we put it in there is just going to dump some more olive oil on the inside and take the dough, flip it over, spin, flip it over, and it's coated. In the pot it goes. Let's just get our starting measurement here. Flatten it down just a little bit. 4 centimeters tall. One last thing we do before ending off for 2 hours to let this rise, we cover the top with a little bit of saran wrap so that the moisture can escape and dry out the dough. We're going to let this go for 2 hours, let it rise, and we're going to measure the weight every 15 minutes. The weight of the pot and the dough were coincidentally the same, with the same weight of 3 pounds, 14 ounces. For these 15 minutes, we're going to take the weight and subtract 3 pounds, 14 ounces. And the initial height was 4 centimeters, and we're going to measure that every 15 minutes as well. And here we are 2 hours later. The dough rose to about 4 times its height, from 4 centimeters to 15. 4 centimeters to 15. And contrary to what we originally believed, the weight of the dough stayed exactly the same. Usually when there's an increase in mass or volume, you'd expect a shift in weight, but we were pretty shocked to find there was no change in weight whatsoever. And of course, if you're gonna make some dough, you gotta make some pizza. Yummy!